Hey everybody, it's Brenda Batista here with you again to share how to become a high performing remote team. As I mentioned before, I've been doing it since 2014. The techniques I'll share with you have increased productivity for my team by 20%, no turnover. We created a great working environment. Everybody loved being part of the team, even though we never got together personally and in the same room very often. So that's, I know, a challenge for many folks now in this current environment, and I'd love to share these techniques with you. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about this time the weekly team meeting, how to structure those to be very effective. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the weekly team meetings. So first thing to think about is the power or the effectiveness of being together or not being together. So, you know, here's an example. Again, I like to use information from Giant. They do a lot of research on how best to communicate and how best to work as a team. And here you see that the medium, down the one column, and the challenge, meaning how well do we communicate when we communicate through these mediums. So you can see text message. Really, we get about 10%. It's about 10% effective. So we miss the tone, we miss exactly what's going on. If you use emoticons, you miss a lot of it. And email, also the same sort of thing. While more formal, they have a tendency to lose some of the communication or the effectiveness. Phone call is always best from that perspective. I had folks that said, "Gosh, if I exchange like 3 emails, I have a rule, then I'm going to call you." Clearly, you can see that effectiveness increases by 20% when you talk to somebody on the phone. But video chat, of course, in person is the best because you can see the whites of their eyes. But given our current situation where we're not able to do that, video chat at 70% is 70% effectiveness is a really great opportunity because you can see each other like we're doing here, like you have the little video up in the corner, and see what's going on with those folks. It's a way of connecting, so we're still connected with each other. So, having said that, some rules of engagement or suggestions, I'll move my head all the way there. Rules of engagement, how to be really effective with your team meetings. Do video conferencing. I use Zoom. There are other ones out there and available. And I recommend it because it is important to create that connection and you can all see each other. Of course, make sure you know how to turn things on and off so you don't create some incidents if people see things you don't want them to see. At our last conversation, we talked about the quietest person starts your meeting. The leader usually goes last, or the loudest voice goes last. So please refer to that earlier video to see what I'm talking about there. Now, your weekly team meetings, I recommend at least weekly. If you need to do more often, that's fine. Schedule around a time that fits everybody's schedule. My team was across. We were from East Coast to West Coast and Canada, so we had multiple time zones to work with. Kind of fit in and found a middle point for all of us that worked. Certainly, you want to have a facilitator and a scribe. So choose separate people to do that and rotate through. So it's not always the same person doing it, and everybody gets a chance to do both of those parts. Certainly work with a shared file, Google Docs, SharePoint, wherever it is that you like to keep your documents so that everybody has a chance to update it because you want to have an intentional agenda. Here's an example here that just popped up. What I mean by that is you really want to make sure that you're hitting the really important points. And the first is to celebrate all wins and accomplishments. So you'll rotate through by the quietest person starts. They'll go through and they'll say, hey, this is what happened this past week. It can be personal, it can be work related, it doesn't matter. It's just to really set the mindset off in the right way. Then each of them will announce what they're working for. They're working on for the week. There's big 3 priorities. If they only have one priority, that's fine too. Certainly not 10. You want to keep it to the 3 to keep it moving. Then they'll add topics for discussion. So you see that there's this identify, discuss, and solve. That's where you're going to get really deep into some discussion points. Somebody needs to share an update. Somebody needs to ask questions or just understand a little bit more details about what is going on with a project. Or somebody just wants to share, hey, this is what's happening. I have a problem. What do you guys think? And be able to brainstorm. So the tips for this talk is really make sure you have an intentional agenda. celebrate your wins, rotate people in and out. And kind of the key takeaway or the quick tip I'll offer is work with the agenda in that shared space, meaning don't download it locally, work with it live in that place because as soon as you're done with the meeting, you have your meeting minutes ready to go. Everybody has access to them and they're available. So it really, really helps in as a time saving technique. And then folks who couldn't make the meeting, as soon as the meeting's over, they would have access to those. So certainly do that. Now, if you'd like a copy or a template, I should say, of this particular agenda, I'm attaching, and there's a link below that you can get the template for an agenda to help you with your team meetings. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much.